how to hold a Zoom Seder. And during this hour, we're going to go from about 7:05 to about 8:05. You just need two things. One is to be here and present, and the other is if you can get a marker and a piece of paper, because we're not only going to talk about how to hold a Zoom Seder, we're going to do certain pieces of it. So if you can go grab a pen and a piece of paper, that would be great. And I'm here with my daughter, Sarah Orbuch. Hi, Sarah, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So as we begin this, tell me, what's your favorite part of Passover?
I like the Seders. I like having everyone together. With this being virtual, it will be a little different this year, but we like to have all the family together, so that's always a good time.
Excellent. So now I'm going to ask all of you the same question. So with your piece of paper and your pen, what I'd like you to do in 1 or 2 words, write down your favorite part of Passover. And I'm going to give you about 5 seconds, 1 or 2 words, and then I'm going to ask you to take a picture of it by putting it on the screen. So in a minute, everyone write down their favorite part of the Passover Seder. Are we recording yet?
Yeah,
we're recording. Excellent. And everybody, this is a game actually Terry Greenstein played this weekend with a lot of people on Zoom. Put it up and let's see what people have. So as you can tell, as you start thinking about holding a Zoom Seder, you want to make sure people have the information in front of them. And you want to make sure that they have a pen that they can use to actually have other people see. One of the interesting things about holding a Zoom Seder is, oh, there's Lori Levine, my cousin from Colorado. Hey, Lori. So great to see everybody. One of the things that's important is within the video settings, there is a mirror setting. So when you hold a piece of paper up, you're going to see it backwards. And so you want to tell people at the beginning to go into their video settings and enable the mirror setting. So there you go. And these are the types of things you can do all along. You can actually play games depending on how many people you have. How many people match? Some people put the food, the matzah, the Seder, and at the beginning you can say everyone's going to keep track of their points. And at the end of the Seder, whoever has the most points is going to earn a prize. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about various ways you can do that, or you can just have fun.
You should touch the camera.
Okay, we are going to continue going to the next slide. I want to talk first about some general principles of holding a virtual Seder. First of all, most importantly, it's got to be stress-free. Seders are usually somewhat stressful because you've got kids, you've got family, you've got food, you've got haggadahs, you've got frogs jumping everywhere. And the key is when you're doing it virtually, to do it as stress-free as possible. The second is it's got to be interactive. I personally think that a Zoom Seder can only last 60 minutes. I know people are going to say, how are you going to get through an entire Seder in 60 minutes? Those of you who have been to my house know that the first 60 minutes is just having a conversation. But 60 minutes is about as long as I can look at a computer screen, and as long as you can probably engage people virtually. So I would keep it short. Third, make it spiritual. What does spiritual mean? It means to me that somehow you're connecting what you're doing virtually to a very important story, and that you're making it meaningful for people in a way that they think Passover should be. Make it fun, engage your guests. There's going to be a lot of fun things that we're going to do here. And then finally, as you're doing it, don't be afraid of making mistakes, okay? Sometimes technology doesn't work. Sometimes you have a parent or a grandparent who you see only their face like this half the time. It's okay. This is a part of holding Zoom Seders. Okay, what are the goals? We're going to the goals slide.
I am also at the same time answering all of your questions in the chat.
Oh, good. You see, you also need someone who's much smarter than you technology-wise, always part of your Seder. Okay, next slide, please. What are the goals? These are my goals, our goals.
You got down there.
I think it's important to transport your virtual guests backwards, to witness our people's exodus and the distance we've come and the work we still have to do. We're all in a very stressful time in our lives, in the world, but there are a lot of amazing things that we can appreciate as we move forward. So one of the goals is actually visually transport your guests to the Exodus and to today. I actually think the Seder should prompt each of us to internalize the story, to go past just empathy, and imagine yourself experiencing the journey. And this year, many of us can feel what is it really like to feel a journey, to be a part of something that we're uncomfortable in, that's new, that we're transported to a place where we may not be able to do everything that we thought, that our freedoms are curtailed, that leadership is questioned, that food is different than we're used to. So it's, again, go past empathy and how do you connect it to what's going on today? Third goal, a lot of people, I and our family love the Passover Seder, but a lot of people get very intimidated about the story. And people say, oh, I'm not a rabbi, I can't do it. Give yourself the ability to say, you don't need to be a rabbi to lead a virtual Seder. You only need to be a teacher. Some of the mitzvot that we're going to go over and are part of the Haggadah, the Passover story, lahagid, to tell, are biblically required. Others are instituted by our rabbis. So the biblically required mitzvot are simple. There's two things, lahagid, to tell the story, and to eat matzah. So if you do nothing more in your 60 minutes than tell the story of the Exodus, which continues up until today, and eat matzah, you're doing pretty well. What did the rabbis institute? The rabbis said, we got to create a bigger ceremony. So we're going to add the drinking of the wine, the eating of the bitter herbs, and hallel, singing songs. Everything else has been added over time to connect different symbols of our journey of Passover to today. So personally, if you don't get to them all, or you don't get to them in the right order, it's okay. Really, everything that we're trying to do is about connection and creation. How do we connect each other to each other and create new insights that can enrich our lives together? Lastly, in terms of the goals, give yourself permission to be creative, mix things up. I've done a lot of studying about the Passover Seder, the order. And as you look through years and years of Passover Haggadahs, they changed their order. Their 4 questions were different. There weren't always 4 cups of wine. So give yourself permission during this uncertain time to recognize that you can mix things up, you can be creative. And then lastly, the overall journey is to remember, and this is a phrase that I use often, Egypt is not a place that we leave once, it's a place that we perpetually leave. So what does that mean? And I think the biggest thing you can do virtually is give people questions, not answers. Because the more answers you give, the more people think there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. So you can do this with jokes, you can do this with puzzles, you can do this with puppets, with songs. And in fact, I'm going to start a couple of the jokes because I think we all need laughter. So who knows, why did the matzah quit his job? Anybody? He didn't get a raise. So there you go. Sarah, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Elia.
Eliyahu.
Eliyahu Hanavi. I mean, you can do this all day. Who was the best businesswoman in the Bible, Sarah?
Who?
Pharaoh's daughter. She pulled a prophet out of the water. So again, you can have a lot of fun. You can also tell everybody that you invite, bring your favorite Passover joke. I see my cousin from California, Susan Orbuch. She loves jokes. You can connect people in all bunch of different ways. Okay, leap of faith. First of all, fascinating. Virtual seders are now permitted, and they're really good for your health. So what does it mean they're good for your health? We are in a time of social isolation. I see Larry Parks putting a virtual background. You can put virtual backgrounds of pyramids in there. You can put virtual backgrounds of other family members who aren't with you. But again, take a leap of faith, invite a wide net of people. Yes, give me a second, because I can hear some feedback. But the effects of social isolation are really real. And you don't have to invite just your family. You can invite your neighbors. You can invite your non-Jewish neighbors. You can invite people who you want to participate in the Seder. I'm going to ask Sarah to try to mute people who are making a little bit noise. We're going to go on. One of the things you need to do is pick a date. Schedule the Seder in advance. The wonderful thing about some of our technology is you can create a date in Zoom or in WebEx or in Google, and they'll send the reminders for you. So that's really cool. And then you can get people to RSVP. And then the biggest thing is prepare. Create your own Haggadah. Use multiple Haggadahs. Who remembers the Maxwell House Haggadah from when I grew up? You can use the Maxwell one, you can use the Reform, the Conservative, the Orthodox one that you created. You can have the same one. What we're doing this year with my sister Deborah Orbuch Grayson is we're creating our own Haggadah and we're sending it out to everybody who's going to attend. I know another friend who says, bring your own Haggadah, and then we're going to divide up the order and then use whatever your Haggadah says about it. There's no right answer. Have fun. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah talking about the ground rules.
So to get super ticky-tacky with how to use technology and functionality, it's really good to set ground rules for you and your guests before this, because I know those of us who have been using technology the last couple of weeks, there's probably been some funny snafus in the work environment that could be avoided if people learned technology etiquette. So the first thing is leverage the chat functionality as much as possible. If you're gonna have a group like this one where it's 86 people, it's really tough for everyone to talk at the same time. But we wanna make sure we answer everyone's questions and everyone gets the chance to participate. So leverage the chat, and the people who are monitoring it can make sure that someone who might not be getting the chance to speak, they can call on them. I know it seems really formal, but that will really help everyone feel like they are participating. Really minimize side conversations or be on mute. In general, it's a really good principle to stay on mute unless you want to talk, because you can hear everything. We know there are dogs, there are babies, there are people, there are noises that will come in and out. That happens. But when there are conversations happening and folks are trying to have another conversation, you can hear it all. You can take bio breaks as needed, but remember to mute yourself and or close your camera. It seems really simple, but those have happened. And I'm sure it's happened for a lot of folks over the last couple of weeks as everyone's moved to technology. Bring a pen and a piece of paper so you can have alternative forms of communication. Everyone should sing and participate in the songs, even if it's off key. Bring something fun, whether you wear a costume or you bring your animals or you do a virtual background, which we learned you have to have a certain version of Mac OS or higher to do that. So check your technology, check your computers. You are going on a long journey. It might be 60 minutes, it might be longer. So you can bring your beverage, you can bring some snacks, and you can all participate together. Yes, bio break is bathroom break. Apologies. Yes, I see that in the chat. So,
Susan and David, is it okay to record this?
We are recording this right now. Yep.
Can we record it personally?
Please do.
Sure. Yeah.
It says you have to have permission from your host.
Yeah, we'll record it and then we'll send it out. It's easier if the host records it, but we promise we've been recording from the beginning, and Joanna will get this sent out to everyone.
Thank you.
Absolutely. For tools and technology, so the Khazan told us all that in the chat that Zoom has waived the 40-minute limit. If that's true, that's wonderful. But if you have a student in your family, we have all been gifted the gift of free Zoom accounts or Google Hangout accounts. For those who use technology for work, many of us use WebEx. Some folks also use Zoom and Google Hangouts for those too. So leverage that functionality for your Seder. Do a trial run. So last weekend, we had Shabbat dinner with our family on Zoom, and we tried to call in my grandma who's 96, and it was difficult, right? We needed some help with getting the technology working. So practice with your grandparents or older family members who might not be as technologically savvy, and encourage them to use the cameras. Provide a guide beforehand that includes things like, how do you use your camera on a computer? Where is the mute button? And then for those who are hosting, it's good to learn a little bit about just some of the settings. So in Zoom, there are things like breakout groups or virtual backgrounds. And what breakout groups can do is, say you want to have folks go off and have a small conversation and come back to the group. As the host, you can look at the bottom and there is a little toggle that says breakout rooms, and you can randomly assign people into smaller groups for a certain amount of time, and then you can pull them all back in after. We use it in my classes right now, and it's a great way to go have conversations in a smaller group before you bring it back to the larger team.
Okay, we're going to do another experiment here. And I think you can do this at the Seder, which is, what's your favorite symbol in the Seder? Okay, so Sarah, what's your favorite symbol in the Seder?
Oh, my favorite symbol in the Seder. The egg.
Okay, why is that?
Because it's about rebirth and renewal, and I think that's very important right now.
Yeah,
What's
perfect.
your favorite symbol?
So great question. I love this story. So I know many of us have had bar or bat mitzvah. There's Jim Sherman. Hello, Jim. And I think the question I always come to is, what's the best bar mitzvah gift you ever got? Well, that's the symbol I like the most.
Put a picture in there sometime.
Because this is what I got for my bar mitzvah when I was 13 years old, which, if you can see in the camera, it's a little pitcher with a little cup underneath it that you wash your hands only on Passover. It's a Passover hand cleaning. And when you're 13 years old and you're getting all these bar mitzvah gifts, you're thinking, what did somebody get me? I will never use that. That is just crazy. Well, I can tell you, I probably invited, I don't know, 100 people to my bar mitzvah. My mom's on the line. It's probably a little bit more. And I can't remember any other gift now that I am close to 60 other than this. Every year since I've been 20, we've used this as a family. So I love this symbol. So again, if we didn't have 80 people online, I would ask everyone to take their pen and paper and to write down what their favorite Passover symbol is. Maybe it's the sandwich with maror and charoses. Maybe it's the celery because it's the first crunch of the Passover dinner. And then what you would do is you would put it up, and then you would pick on, say you had 20 people. You can't go around to everybody. You'd ask one or two people to talk about why it was their Passover favorite symbol. But you get the idea. Pen, pencil, technology, interaction, that's the key. Because why is this night different from all their nights? This year, the Seder will be different. It will be. And just embrace that. It's okay. Don't try to create what you had before. Recognize that we are in a unique time period. And leverage that to have these conversations. I was on the phone last night with my good friends Bill and Carlin Altman, and they were talking about they're taking all the Passover memes, what do you call
Memes.
memes that they see on the internet, and they're putting together Haggadah that includes all of them. So that's fun. Recognize that these are the times. Also, think about what becomes possible with this type of a Seder. Can you do a potluck by mail? Can you create meals together in a different way? Can you take your grandmother's recipe for chicken soup and all do it together, but in different houses, and then eat it together or cook it together beforehand and have a pre-meeting? Can you create a Passover cookbook that has 4 recipes in it? Those types of things. What could be different? A collaborative Haggadah, as I said earlier, my sister and I are putting together a collaborative Haggadah, and we're trying to then send it out to anybody who's going to be at our Seder. What are the rituals that are important to you? Figure out during the Seder, what are the critical things that you love that are important to you, and focus in on that. You know, when all things around us are so uncertain, we all need some structure. What better structure than the Seder? For those of you who know, Seder means order. So how do we create order in an environment that's so difficult to find it and want it? So again, you can have that conversation with people. You can use it as part of the order. What are the things in your life today that you wish were more ordered? What do you miss? How would you like it if everything was ordered in the way the Passover Haggadah is? Again, leverage the questions, the themes around that. And then one of the themes that I love around Passover is tzedakah. So there's a Passover custom that dates back almost 2,000 years ago, prior to, or for our family, at the start of the holiday. Tzedakah is given by everybody who's participating in our Seder. So how do you do that virtually? What if we as an Adath community, or what if you in your people that you invited virtually all agreed that we were going to give tzedakah to those people who are most in need today, right now? What if at the end, what we do is and we'll talk about in a little while, we always do a Passover riddle, because we hide the AFIKOMEN, and instead of actually hiding it, we hide it in our minds and we find it through the riddle. And so the person who gets the right answer to the riddle gets to decide where the AFIKOMEN money is given. And so again, rather than, see, you'll hear animals, rather than just talking about how things are different, how can we, with our actions, demonstrate the lessons of Seder and do it subsequent to Passover, so you can send that money and really make a difference. Okay, I am big on homework. Anybody who's going to come to my Seder, we can either call it pre-work, which is what my sister likes. So I actually like homework, because I think people need to do work to get their mind set for Passover. And I think a lot about what's the homework that can connect people to the theme of the Seder we're having this year. So this year, this is part of the homework we gave. So Mitzrayim in Hebrew stems from the root sar, which means constrain or tight spot. So the question is, as we think about the tight spot we're in today, what learnings can we apply from our Exodus journey to today? What are the tight spots that the Israelites, and remember they weren't really Jews until they got the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai, they were Israelites. What are the lessons that the story teaches us that we can learn today? So this is what I sent out as an example of the answer to the homework. But again, if we didn't have 80 people, I'd kind of go and ask people what their feedback is. But for me, one of the key things is that the Seder recognizes the importance of asking questions, whether or not you are wise or actually even know how to ask the questions. Remember the 4 questions? The child who doesn't even know how to ask the questions? The Talmud indicates that the Seder should ask that at the Seder, those people should ask questions that stimulate discussions and allow us to act as free people. As importantly, the Haggadah teaches us to question authority. Clearly, Moses questioned Pharaoh's authority. The ultimate example is when Moses questioned God's authority. God said, Moses, you're the guy who's going to take the Israelites out of Mitzrayim, out of this tight spot. And Moses said, what, are you kidding, God? Not me, I can barely talk. So he even questioned authority. So if Moses can question authority, so can we. So that, again, if you think about how can we then leverage that, what's the lesson learned for today, you'd have a conversation virtually. But the example that I give, and we're asking everyone who attends our Seder to give answers to these questions, and then we're going to put them in the Haggadah, is that as Israelites, as those who are part of the Exodus, it's our job to question. And that we should expect leaders who show humility, that understands, like Moses, he didn't have all the answers. He needed others to help him. He needed Miriam, he needed Aaron, he needed Joshua, he needed et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the story I love is the story of when the Israelites decided to leave Egypt. It was after the 10 plagues. Moses got everybody ready. All of a sudden, they're leaving. The Egyptian army is right behind the Israelites. And everybody goes, oh my gosh, we got to cross the sea. What are we going to do? And Nachshon, who couldn't even swim, said, we might as well start trying to get into the water. And Nachshon's going into the water's up to his mouth, the water's up to his nose. And Moses, the story goes, starts praying to God and says, God, help Nachshon. And God responds, Moses, your friend is drowning. There is a time to pray and there's a time to get moving and take action. So Moses follows Nachshon, and of course the sea splits. So what's the lesson learned? The lesson is there's a time to pray and there's a time to act. And right now in our society, we got to do some more actions. But again, I'm not giving answers, but those are the types of homework that you can give. And in and of itself, that homework can engage people in conversations. Okay. One more joke, and then we're going to go on to some information. So, what did the grape say, Sarah, when he got stepped on?
What did the grape say?
He let out a little wine. Okay, and you can do trivia. Again, trivia, you can read this if you're in the mirror function. 3 names of Passover, and you'd have people answer them. What's the oldest printed Haggadah? Again, who is the only U.S. president that was assassinated, who died during Passover? Abraham Lincoln. Okay, so you could start doing Passover trivia to break things up, and you could get winners, add points, and you will see it in a minute when we talk about the AFIKOMEN. Those people who have the most points at the end of the Seder are going to get a prize, and you can leverage, different ways to send out those prizes. Okay, Sarah, I'm turning it back over to you.
So 8 through 12, this is the easy part. So for this part, it's really focused on how can you make this as engaging and interactive as possible. The first thing you can do is you can delegate roles ahead of time. Maybe you assign people characters of the story. Maybe you assign people sections. For us, we usually in person have each person go through and read a paragraph. This year, maybe instead of a paragraph, we assign people a different section. So is it Kadesh, Rachatz, Karpas, Yachatz, etc. And encourage people to get creative with their responsibilities. This doesn't need to be serious. This isn't a full-time job. This is an This is an opportunity to have fun. You can create a virtual Seder plate. So what could that look like? That could mean each person brings something different and has that with them the night of the Seder. Maybe it means you actually do create a Seder plate, or you paint a picture, or you use it as your background. Another thing you can do is create a Passover cookbook. So ahead of the Seder, you could have everyone send in their favorite Passover recipes, and then you could send that out to all of your guests. Or you and a small group of your guests could say, hey, on Tuesday night before Pesach, let's all make this. And together you Zoom and you cook that together. Be creative with it. You could also do something like Amazon Moses baskets, or use Etsy. So you can find craft kits, you can build your own little Moses baskets and send it to your friends, kind of like Mishloach Manot if this were Purim. And how can you, again, connect with people in a way that doesn't involve you seeing them. And then the last thing you can do is host a pre-Seder study group, or a pre-Seder cook group, or a pre-Seder just discussion, or a pre-Seder with the grandparents. Here's how you can use the technology session. So what can you do ahead of the Seder to prepare for the actual Seder, to make sure that when people are there, it's as interactive and engaging as possible. Okay, moving on to 13.
Okay. So we are big in our family about the AFIKOMEN because it engages people. And I think you can do this virtually. I have a good friend, Barry and Amy Newman, who every year hide the AFIKOMEN somewhere in the world. We do a Passover riddle that my dad started when we were old enough to not look for the AFIKOMEN anymore, actually. And so my father used to say, this person or Passover symbol is found in Haggadah and Passover story, and then would give 9 other clues. And you only got 2 answers. And once those 2 answers were used up, you couldn't find the AFIKOMEN anymore. But I'm going to give you an example of the Where's Waldo part of the AFIKOMEN, which is we hid the AFIKOMEN virtually. And I'm going to see if this works. We're going to see, we're going to take the words down so we can see people. And I'm going to give you 6 clues for where the AFIKOMEN is virtually. Once you know the answer, raise your hand. Scott Gordon, your hand, Scott Gordon. And if you whoever gets it right first, I'm actually going to send a can of chocolate macaroons through Amazon to you as the winner. So here we go.
Oh, wow, the Greens were really excited by that.
All right, I love it. Okay, here we go. So I can't watch all 80 of us at one time, but we have hidden the AFIKOMEN someplace virtually. First question. There is no proof that the place where the AFIKOMEN is hidden this year actually existed, but its dimensions are clear. I'll do it one more time. There is no proof that the place where the AFIKOMEN is hidden actually existed, but its dimensions are clear. I'm a little worried about the clergy. They're awfully pretty bright at this stuff. We actually, but they can also do this. So
Aaron's on a matzah plate.
Aaron Weiniger is on a matzah plate background. Okay, nobody wants to answer. I see Joe Liflin. I don't see an answer from Joe. Okay, second clue from where the AFIKOMEN is hidden this year. The AFIKOMEN this year is hidden, the AFIKOMEN this year is hidden in a place that is found in the book of Genesis, although it can also be found in the Quran. Do I see anybody's hands up? First clue is there's no proof that the place where the AFIKOMEN is hidden actually existed, but its dimensions are clear. Okay, I see someone's hand up. The second one is the AFIKOMEN this year is hidden in a place that is found in the book of Genesis, although it can also be found in the Quran. I see somebody's hand up. Who is that? They just froze. Okay, is that Marcy Harris? No, who is that? Go ahead. If you have let's see, somebody. I see Jen.
Jennifer, it's hard to read.
You got to see, that's what happens, Jen. You got to put it darker. If you have the answer, write it on a piece of paper.
People are
really
saying
dark.
Garden of Eden.
Garden of Eden. Very good answer, but wrong. I see somebody else.
Janice, what's your answer? I see your hand wave.
I'll let Lou tell you.
Noah's Ark.
Noah's Ark, did you say?
Yes.
Oh, I know the answer.
Very good. You are right.
Huh?
So that's exactly right. That's very good. Let me tell you the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth clues. The third clue was the AFIKOMEN this year is hidden in a place that is connected to the University of Minnesota. The ark used gopher wood to build the ark. The fourth clue is you may want to get help from a dove to find where the AFIKOMEN this year is hidden. So you know the story about the dove. The fifth clue would have been the AFIKOMEN this year is hidden in a place where there may have been up to 35,000 others, but most did not come alone. The story is that there are 35,000 different types of sets of animals that went on the Noah's Ark. And the last one is, if you want to go during the summer to a replica of where the AFIKOMEN is hidden, you will have to travel 222 miles from Minneapolis and pay $35. So again, have fun, enjoy yourself. Way to go, Janice. Or her
Thank you.
husband, Louis.
Yeah.
You're gonna, so Janice, what I need you to do is send me an email of your address, and you're gonna be getting the macaroons delivered directly to you.
איזה חמוד זה.
Whoa.
Excellent. Okay, so
Yes, Wendy, he got his start at SMP, and that's where everyone should get their start.
but you can have a lot of fun. Create your own riddle. Make it age appropriate for kids, older adults. If you're having a lot of young people, there are actually riddles online that you can use to hide your AFIKOMEN. Okay, during the Seder, I actually think, I like to sing everybody. During the Seder, I think this is a wonderful time to ground yourself. It's a really difficult time in everybody's life. So I think it's important to start the Seder by showing appreciation. Not only talking about the difficult things in life, but what are the things you're grateful for? I call this a Dayenu moment. What can you do that would be enough? What is enough for you right now? Maybe it's having enough toilet paper in your house to last for a month. Maybe it's being able to walk around a beautiful lake and without worrying about being too close to somebody. Maybe it's about having, if you're in the Shalom home, yesterday there was music played outside the Shalom home and all around the building. Maybe it was just being able to do that. Maybe it's being able to hold a Zoom Seder. I also think that's important, is one of the things that is really unique is you can use your hands. So I love the blessing of the children. And I think you can take your hands and you can say, okay, everybody put your hands over on top of you. And so together we're going to bless all the children. But I read a beautiful article online yesterday that says you can put your hands on your heart and have everybody put their hands on their heart. And then let's bless all of the children. Yismech Elohim Keser Rivchel Rachel B'Leah. You know, and together, whether you have children or not, you're going to bless all the children in the world. And you put your hands on your heart because it is a show of connection and it's a show of grounding. I'm also big on the candles being lit and bringing light to a very dark time in our community. So how do you do that? Well, you can have everybody light the candles, or you can say, Grandma Joyce, we'd like you to light the candles for all of us. And we're going to use that light as we continue our Seder.
Which means Grandma Joyce has to learn how to turn on the video.
But that's what grandchildren are for. But again, I think there's some very simple acts that you can use with your hands to connect people together virtually. And the more you do that, they sound really corny. But for anybody who is in yoga, or anybody who does the Amida, or anybody who puts on tefillin, or if you kiss a mezuzah, you recognize that sometimes physical acts of kissing the mezuzah, or putting on tefillin, or going to heart center, if you do it enough, it actually grounds you. So the traditions give us ways to connect to what we're doing. Okay. I also think as we think about this, there's some really critical things that we can leverage during the Seder. So one of them for me is washing of the hands. Can you believe that during the Seder, you wash your hands twice? Now, I could go into a whole explanation about why do you wash your hands twice. One time it may be because it's the beginning of the Seder and you're cleansing yourself spiritually. And the next one, you're actually starting to eat food, so you're cleansing yourself physically. That could have been a reason. But I like what I saw from one of my teachers. She actually came here to teach us at the Adath, Rabbi True. She wrote this, and I'm going to read it for you. As we place renewed focus on the simple act of washing our hands, the following kavanah, intention, can become a moment of mindfulness and gratitude. Before washing your hands during Passover, take a moment to pause and recognize what you're doing. You're about to clean your hands. Whisper to yourself, thank you for water and soap and sanitizer. Thank you for hands. Thank you for everyone who made it possible for me to be clean right now. The people who made soap and sanitizers and sinks and towels and plumbing and the space in my house, and for the human project of medicine and health and hygiene. Thank you for my health and the ability to care for others in this moment. As you clean your hands, look at them. Feel your hands, see your skin, your nails. Take this moment to pause and to breathe. Feel what cleaning hands feels like to you right now. Think about cleaning hands. Now, I've been doing Seders for many, many years, and I've never really thought about this part of the Seder and how it can connect us both to the Mitzrayim experience, but also today's Mitzrayim. Remember, Mitzrayim comes from the root difficult spot that we're having right now, and how a simple act that we used to take for granted, now we do 20 times a day. We wash our hands. So again, you can do that. Another example that I like to talk about is the karpas. It's the first food we really eat during the Seder. And it's the really first Passover ritual. You dip the celery into salt water, the salt water of our tears. So often people ask, what are the tears that we're experiencing today? What are the issues that we're having in our society? But I also like to turn it the other way. You know, the celery is a sign of spring. And spring, thank God, always returns, whether we witness it from the outside or the inside of our home. And so rather than always talking about the difficult things that are going on in this world, where is hope today? Even though hope in the celery is covered with some tears, where can we look to for that feeling that things will return to normalcy? So karpas symbolizes the hope for the future. Jewish tradition always embraces hope, even during uncertain times. And so the question you can ask is, what are you hopeful for? What are the signs of spring that you're hoping for? What are the signs of hope that you're seeing together now? So again, those are the types of things you can do. Those are the ways you can connect the Seder to what's going on to today. So I want to move forward, but you can sing, have lots of different challenges. And I want to get to how do you conclude the Seder? So, Sarah, you go first.
Sure. We recommend ending the Seder before dinner. Dinner will be loud. People will be eating and you can hear that all. And I think, as we said at the beginning, giving a time box will be really helpful. One of the things we love to do is a lot of singing in our family. That usually is after dinner, before dessert, or after dessert, and it's usually a longer amount of time. So if you're like us, you can add that on with the beginning of the Seder and do it before dinner, or as Khazan said in the chat, you can do 2 40-minute Seders where the first 40 is devoted to all of the elements of the Seder that come before the meal, and then after the meal, you can pick up where you left off or just focus on the singing. Give your guests the option. Not everyone has to do it. It's just nice to have that option and be connected and keep those traditions. Leverage these 15 steps. Use them to however you want to use them and whatever you feel most comfortable with for your Seder. In Jewish tradition, every action is an opportunity for mindfulness and gratitude.
So one of the things I think about, and a question that was in chat
well,
is,
is how do you have simultaneous
Yes.
singing on Zoom with the delays and the noise? I think you're going to have the delays and the noise with singing, and you just embrace it. For things like the Who Knows One, again, assign different people, different roles, assign different parts of different songs to different people, and that will be the part that we'll all, let's all come back together after the Seders and see who figured out how to sing the best over Zoom. But just know that that will be messy, and that will be the fun of it.
we do Haggadah, and you've got to do Haggadah in one breath. So the great thing about Zoom is who can get through the whole Haggadah in one breath. My wife can not only do it in one breath, but she can do it on one foot too. So you can have a lot of fun with this and leverage all that enjoyment. I think 2 more things that are really important in terms of themes. Scarcity and abundance. If you're looking for themes during our Seder, how does scarcity and abundance impact our thinking? So the Israelites had scarcity, but they also had abundance. We today have scarcity, but we also have abundance. How do we think about it in terms of being free or being enslaved? Different than being slaves, they are being enslaved. So that's one thing. I think the second thing that I learned last night from a friend is we think about social distancing as being brand new in our society. But in the story of Passover, there was social distancing. And how does it impact us? And you may be thinking, social distancing in Haggadah? Did I miss that part of the story? Was that in Exodus and I missed it? And I would say yes. There was social distancing. The Israelites social distanced themselves from the Egyptians by putting blood over their doorstep, so that the Israelites, the angel of death, would pass over them. So again, what does that mean? The third theme that I love during this Passover Seder, and I know many of you are thinking about it, is how do we build communities? Oh my gosh, we have 80 people talking about the Passover Seder on this Zoom. We have 50 to 100 people going to minyan at our synagogue, where sometimes we had trouble getting a minyan. How do you build and nourish community? What does it take? How are we going to think about community differently? How did the Israelites think about community? What were they connected to? Before Mount Sinai, they were not connected to one God. They were connected to leaders. And what does that mean? What type of leaders do we need today? How do we leverage leadership? So again, a lot of good themes, and it's almost time. And so, like in the Orbuch tradition, I'm going to end with a joke. This is a Scott Gordon joke. Hopefully he will laugh at it. But you remember when the Israelites were leaving Egypt, they needed to cross the Red Sea, or the Dead Sea, but no, the Red Sea, or the Reed Sea. And in the middle of it, the Israelites didn't realize how big the sea was, and they started getting thirsty. And so they were complaining to Moses, "I'm thirsty, Moses, I'm thirsty, Moses." And unfortunately, they were not able to drink from the walls of the water from either side of the sea because it was made up of salt water. Then a fish from the wall of water told Moses, "Moses, I hear everybody complaining that they can't drink the water, but I'm a fish, and my whole family, we can use our gills to remove the salt from the salt water and then force it out of our mouths like a freshwater fountain for the Israelites to drink as they walked by us. Moses said, "Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. We'd love you to do that." But before the fish agreed to help, they told Moses they had one demand. They and their descendants had to always be present at the Seder meal that would be established to commemorate Exodus, since they were a part of the story. When Moses agreed, he gave them their name, which remains how they are named even today. For Moses said, "Your name from here on in will be Go Filter Fish." Go filter fish. See again.
Scott Gordon didn't laugh.
Scott Gordon didn't get it. But no, that's the key, is how do you have fun? How do you enjoy yourself? How do you sing? So here's what I would embrace. I would embrace that we are free people now. Embrace the freedom to create your own Seder. And next year, may we have a Seder in person with all of us being present at each other's home, enjoying grandma's chicken soup, enjoying food together. But for now, embrace what we have and the communities that we have together. Sarah, last words?
No, we will save this recording. We'll send all the documents to the Chazan, and she will make sure everyone gets it.
Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Continue to send in chat questions. Jen Robbins, any last words from you?
It's my understanding that there will be a lot of materials up, if not tomorrow, the next day, on the Adath website regarding Passover. The Chazan has been very hard at work getting videos from all the congregants and her colleagues across the country, as have the rest of the clergy. And so look for that for additional resources.
Enjoy your Seder. Bye-bye. Yep.
I wanted to hold back on the AFIKOMEN because I did win one year, so you know, feel like other people need the opportunity. Don't want to brag. But kol hakavod, really, what a wonderful way to enter the
Enjoy
season.
your Seders. Send questions if you have them.
Thank you.